US President Donald Trump has said he will allow 2 weeks for diplomacy before deciding whether to launch a strike in Iran. As European and Iranian officials are meeting in Geneva this Friday, the UK's foreign minister has said a window now exists to end the Middle East crisis. So some headway has it been made in the negotiations and the conversations. Though US officials are skeptical of talks, a White House official kept the door open to progress. Benjamin Netanyahu has not ruled out targeting Iran's supreme leader, saying no one in Iran should have immunity after Israel's defense minister said Ayatollah Ali Khamenei cannot be allowed to continue to exist. Now the war is escalating. Sirens are sounding in parts of Israel as Iran has launched another round of ballistic missile strikes. Now, as tensions continue to flare between Israel and Iran, and Washington ponders over a potential military action against the Islamic Republic, one of the US's most secretive aircraft quietly entered the skies above the US capital, the Doomsday Plane. That's the Boeing E-4B. It's not an ordinary aircraft, it's a military aircraft version of the Boeing 747-800. If there is a nuclear attack on the ground, then it can fly in the sky carrying America's top leaders. That is why this plane is also called the Flying Pentagon. The Doomsday Plane does not fly on normal days. That is why it is named as the Doomsday Plane. The last this was used was around 9/11. This plane can fly continuously for more than 11,000 kilometers. 112 passengers can be on board. The President of America, Defense Minister, top military leaders can travel anywhere safely in it. And it can also, if it cannot land, then mid-air refueling is possible with this aircraft. It can sustain nuclear radiation, and it can also operate as a command center. Now, let's get back to General Pandey, Zahak Tanveer and Dr. Ranganathan. This is also the day when the Russians have said a regime change in Iran is unimaginable and it will open up a Pandora's box. So, General Pandey, how do you see the next few days unfolding,
okay.
and what's the impact closer home to us?
Anand,
Ji.
Yeah, okay. Anand, what is happening is that while everybody is looking for an escalation, but unfortunately the flux now which has happened, because both Israel and Iran have achieved their partial missions, right? Israel has achieved a partial mission success in terms of neutralizing, let's say 1.5 of 50% of its nuclear infrastructure which they wanted to target, and they have nearly assisted the top leadership of the military leadership of the Iranians. But like I have said previously, the Fordow thing remains probably intact, but then the capacity of nuclear enrichment which Iran wanted to develop in next about couple of months may get rolled out for some more time to happen. The problem what is happening is that everybody knows that Donald Trump doesn't have any stomach for more war fighting, and he was never a war fighter technically. He wanted to avoid, and he is now being egged on by the Israelis to partner in this entire thing, at least by giving those web platforms. And the Iranians know this squeamishness of Donald Trump, and they are going to push this gap wider and wider by talking for diplomatic impasse, and thereafter have an outreach to resolve that issue. They know they are in a bind. Their air defense is out and out finished. If today the B-2s, B-52s are launched, they will succeed into pointing the Fordow nuclear plant. But the catch is that is America ready to take on this? And I'm sure they can find via media to enable Israelis to happen. But the problem with Israelis is that if they are not able to do it in next 2 to 3 days time, the first salvo which went out had a great element of surprise in terms of timing and everything. But here and on, the Iranians are going to be ready for an incoming assault, and it will be a little bit challenged. So this comes to a military environment. The second part is of diplomatic impasse, which I'm very, very sure that the Iranians are going to push as much as possible for a ceasefire now, right? And Israelis are not. Let's see how much our Trump can be twisted. I have a feeling that in this mid-term coming, the next set of elections coming, Trump is in a major bind. He's got about 44% support from the American population in American mandate. But even America is looking that if they are able to strike, because their political mission of regime change is unlikely to happen. So in case they are able to strike at least at Fordo, this dip of about 5 to 6% will achieve him some degree of success. He needs to bind, but knowing Trump, what he says for 2 weeks, he may take a decision tomorrow. You may see a onslaught going today or tomorrow. If it doesn't happen a day or two, I don't think it is possible for Israelis or Americans to do anything thereafter. It is going to roll over to some other time next year or next to next year or whenever Israelis find time. Right? That is what I think. The off-ramp which Iran requires for its own public, they have achieved, because what has happened is nearly about 20 to 30% visible strikes by their missiles and drones have happened in Israel. So the Zionist is going to face the wrath of Iranian, is the element which he's got to prove to his own people and the Muslim Ummah in the world. So therefore he's got a very prestigious off-ramp which will happen for whatever punishment Iran has taken today. And therefore it'll be to its credit, they will be going off in a positive handle in case they are able to wrangle some degree of negotiated ceasefire now. And rest, I can only just very quickly sum up that today Iran is alone. Russia may say anything, China may say anything. They can only provide certain degree of missiles, certain degree of munition, but in terms of world support, Iran doesn't have any. There is no credible power which is there in the region. The Pakistanis who were talking of the friends have just had a great lunch. I am sure he's burping out airspace to the Americans and Israelis today.
Well, the Pakistanis have been admonished by the Iranian ambassador to India also, because he's very clearly turned around and told the Pakistanis that any luncheon or anything in bed with the West is not going to go down well, and let's hope that Pakistan remains a friend of Iran. That's the message that's gone through clearly. So somewhere there is a messaging that's happening. How will this shape up? Because there is this whole lot of enriched uranium which is lying with the Iranians. Now they may be sent back, and a wounded Iran may just redouble its efforts, and they may just get far more covert help from the Chinese and the Russians now to try and develop nuclear capability. If that is not seized and that's not controlled, and somewhere I think behind in Donald Trump's head when he said unconditional surrender and Iran cannot go nuclear, the message was very clear. But that's the case with Donald Trump. Every day the message is clear, but it's different. Now, will the protracted conflict hurt Bharat? Just bringing in this dynamic before I bring in Zahak Tanveer and also Dr. Ranganathan. Bharat imports over 90% of its crude needs. At $10 a barrel increase in the average price of crude oil in FY26, it will typically push up net oil imports by about $13 to $14 billion. Now, enlarging the CAD by about 0.3% of the GDP. Now, there could be an energy crisis. The Strait of Hormuz closure threatens Bharat's oil, LNG supplies. But the oil minister, Hardeep Puri, has assured that there is enough diversified supplies of crude and can source oil from alternative suppliers. So Russia is one of its biggest suppliers. If required, we'll have to buy from Chinese also. Now, the trade route, that's also a problem. If there is chaos in that region, Red Sea, Suez disruptions raise shipping costs by 15 to 20%, and that's somewhere about 6,374 crore. That's the rice exports to Iran. 20,000 to 25 tons of tea goes to Iran. About $3.76 billion trade with Israel, that will also be at risk. There may be a diplomatic strain too. Balancing Israel and Iran ties risks Bharat's regional influence. Over 8 million Bharatiya live in the Gulf region. A prolonged conflict increases risks to their safety and livelihoods too, and potentially leading to evacuation crisis and remittance shocks. By the way, nearly 1,000 Bharatiya will be back in 3 Mahan Air flights. So it's an Iranian special effort. They're opening up their skies later tonight and through the day tomorrow. About 1,000 Bharatiya will be back home. Now, the Indo-Iranian Chabahar port project, crucial for trade access to Afghanistan and Central Asia, could also face setbacks or international sanctions pressure if tensions escalate. Zahak Tanveer and then Dr. Ranganathan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anand. As we were talking about Mr. Pandey mentioned about the regime change aspect. So I'd like to touch that regime change aspect as well.
Sure.
And we discussed this yesterday as well, that regime change, as we talked, that it's not easy in Iran to have the regime change. But at the same time, what the world powers are doing right now, as Mr. Pandey mentioned, that Iran doesn't have any, world support as of now, and the Britain and French and also the Germany is E3. They're just pushing for the negotiations, and Iran is also okay for the negotiations, but Iran is not okay for the zero enrichments. So they're not okay for the zero enrichments, and they have learned from Gaddafi. Gaddafi gave up the nuclear plans, and also the Saddam. He gave up the plans, but what happened after giving up the nuclear plans? They were dished and they were killed. So Iran knows about it. And when we talk about the Iranian military, so they have like three layers of military: the Artesh military, the IRGC, and the third one is the Basij militia. So they control the entire Iran. We know that there are a lot of people inside Iran who wants the regime change, but the military and the militia control the deep state. It's very difficult to have the regime change. And in fact, the Israeli President Herzog, he clearly mentioned yesterday that Israel is not looking for the regime change as of now. If regime change happens, that it's good for the Iranians. That's what he mentioned. But even Israel is not looking for the regime change. But what Israel is right now looking for, as Mr. Panze also mentioned, that they want the Farda to be destroyed and demolished completely. And once Farda is done, then I think Israel's job is done. And Israel is the only entity in the entire Middle East which can control the entire Iranian militia and entire militia, the entire Iranian terror infrastructure. So no other country can handle Iran as of now. So the pushing point of view, the first one is to end the ballistic missile support. It's not only about the nuclear facilities, it's not about the nuclear enrichment. It's also about to end the advanced ballistic missiles program. Like the Iran has the MBBM and IRBM, intercontinental. So they have been supporting a lot of militias, especially the Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen, and the half of the Iraqi militias. They have been supporting the half of the Iraqi militias. So right now, what U.S. and Israel want from the Iran is that to stop the ballistic missile program. And the second thing is to disband the militias which are operating in the Middle East. And obviously, Iran is okay for the negotiations, but they're not okay for the zero enrichments. That's my observation.
But what kind of negotiations if there is no zero, if it is, if they don't agree to zero enrichment? And will Israel use this time to try and continue to pound Iran's installations and also attack not just their intelligence, their military capabilities, but also somewhere target some of their militia, their Iran-sponsored militia, to try and wipe out as much of the Hydra as they can, or chop off as much of the Hydra heads as they can? Dr. Ranganathan, the impact on Bharat also is important to consider. Ji, your thoughts?
Absolutely. Just a couple of points out here, Anand. As they say, the adage goes, a week is a long time in politics. 2 weeks is an eternity in a war. So when Trump says his decision to join or not to join will be taken after 2 weeks, I'm afraid that'll be too late. I think he's going to, General Pandey is right. He is going to have to make the decision because Israel also is now feeling the pinch, to be honest with you. There are a lot of Iranian missiles that are slipping through the Iron Dome and other air defenses. So that is a worrying factor for Israel. So I think America has to make that decision sooner than later. And ironically, I speak as a layman out here. If it does, that is exactly what Putin is waiting for. It will be a godsend for him if America joins the war, because he's going to use this war as a lever to manipulate the machinations of the Ukraine-Russia war. Remember that if the West and America had not supported Ukraine in the war with Russia, then Russia would have completely run over Ukraine. It hasn't done so. So Russia is going to supply Iran as much as it can to elongate the Iran-America, Iran-Israel war as long as possible. It is going to be a stalemate with terrible consequences for the rest of the world. You mentioned about the oil prices and other. The second very quick point, the democratic world is praying that a regime change doesn't happen, because I can bet my bottom dollar every time America has tried to do a regime change,
Yeah.
after a few years, has to talk to the same people that it changed. You look at Afghanistan,
Yeah.
when it orchestrated, now it is talking to the Taliban. You look at Syria. I mean, for heaven's sake, the president had a $10 billion bounty on his head. And a week ago, he shook hands with President Trump. You look at Libya, you look at every other country that America has orchestrated a regime change, it has gone to the dogs, and the same regime has returned. So, who knows, if America orchestrates a regime change in Iran, it would be talking to Khamenei after 3 or 4 years. So, that is obviously out of the question. As far as India is concerned, let's be very honest about it. We are ruled by a lot of conglomerate where it is very difficult to put one foot wherever you might do in, sorry to use the word dog. The fact of the matter is, as you correctly put it, we need oil, we need resources, we need Iran. Iran was a friend. In the last 3 or 4 years, something has happened that Iran has moved away from this so-called cast iron friendship. You remember the very unsavory statements of Khamenei as far as Kashmir was concerned, repeated statements talking about the freedom movement of the Kashmiris out there, oppressed Kashmiris,
Yes.
Muslim world. So both Turkey and Iran try to manipulate their relations with non-friendly or non-overtly friendly countries with this Muslim Brotherhood question. And India always gets trapped. I think the time has come for us to openly say either you are with us or you are against us. This walking on thin ice for us is no longer going to matter. That is what my assessment is.
No, very well put and very insightful. Different perspectives, not in disagreement, but also presenting a different facet to this entire conflict. Last word with General Pandey. Yes, sir. We'll wind up after that.
So, Anand, I think this worry about Hormuz being closed is slightly unnecessary, because I feel that any trade route which Iranians go close will have major ramifications for the Iranians. Any lesson, if you want to learn from the Cold War after Doklam or Galwan, which happened between India and China, or between Ukraine and Russia, that any prolonged conflict, you need to continue the life of trade as is possible, as much as possible. Like Russia is thriving and surviving only because they have allowed the trade to continue, and Iranians possibly understand the moment they close Hormuz, while there will be a jump in prices all over the place, but everybody, who will earn the most? The Russians will earn the most, right?
Yeah.
So we have to see in this whole cycle that while one enemy of America or Israel is going to get less benefit, there is another one which is going to thrive on it. So there's a cycle, and I don't think Iranians are going to close down.
Right.
Second is in our relationship with Iran. While there has been a challenge because of certain reasons in last few years, but our relationship with Iran, in spite of their public nuances against Kashmir and everything, remains at the diplomatic level very, very cordial. So they will reach out and assist India, because there are other layers of connection. We've got a large number of Shia population with us. It's a Shia country per se.
Right.
I don't want to get into more details, but the fact is there is a huge relationship which continues to go between India and this thing, and India cannot compromise its autonomy for Israel or Iran.
Right.
It will have to continue to go very deftly between the two. It just can't let go of Iran, because we have got very, very significant problems on our hand.
Right.
In case we let go of Iran, our entire connection to the West and to the Central Asian Republic, which takes off from Chawar and other routes,
Ji.
it will be compromised. So that, I think, is one angle which we have to look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliantly articulated there,
Thank you.
gentlemen. Always taking the right stand in the interest of our viewers and also the nation. Thank you so much.